So welcome everyone. My name is Julie Shields Rutina, and I am the Director of College Planning, Education, and Training at MEFA. And I am joined by my colleagues, Jennifer Bento-Pinion and Asia Stupert. And we are here today for this webinar, Helping Families Understand Financial Aid Offers. So hopefully this will be a helpful webinar and very timely because we are in that season. So let me go through a few housekeeping pieces first. So this webinar should take about an hour, but we're happy to answer all of your questions. So we're asking that you put your questions in the Q&A section, and Jennifer and Asia will have access to those questions so they could answer them, or we could bring them up as a larger topic for the group. So please feel free to ask all of your questions. You also have the ability to change the audio settings to control volume level. And I always joke that I get super excited about all these topics. So if you want to turn me down, feel free. You can use the raised hand, but I may not be able to see it when I'm presenting. So I'd say probably the best way to do that is put your question in question and answer. If you'd like live transcript, you can press the CC on the bottom of your screen and you'll see the transcript and the words that are being spoken. And then if you need to leave, you can just click the red button. I have also recorded this webinar. I'm recording it right now. So tomorrow we will send you the recording. So you don't have to take tons and tons of notes. You can listen and you'll have the recording for yourself and to share in case anyone missed this. So a little bit about MEFA. I think most of you probably know MEFA, but MEFA is a not-for-profit state authority. We've been around since 1982, all with the mission to help families plan, save, and pay for college. And one of the ways we do that is by holding all of these webinars on topics surrounding college financing and admissions. And we want to support families with this, but we also want to support you as counselors. And so this year, I don't need to say, has been a very challenging one. And we continue to work to try to help you in whatever ways we can by holding these type of webinars for your students and your families and for you. So for example, one thing I'll say is that we're going to be holding this similar workshop for families a number of times over the next number of weeks. So please continue to direct your families and your students to mefa.org/events so that they can attend some of these to help them as they're going through this process. We did also create a kit so that you could promote mefa.org/events to give this information to your students and families. If you need that, be in touch. When I send the recording, you'll have my email. You can ask me for that kit and we can send that along again. There are also going to be a number of webinars this spring for juniors, the admissions process and college financing to get a jump on the fall. So we want to provide all of these for you to help you do your jobs. And a final, but very important other way we want to help you is that our free web portal for students, MEFA Pathway, is just such a great tool. And there have been so many enhancements to that tool over the last year, especially. And both Jennifer and Asia spending the majority of their time working with counselors and with schools to share how this can be a real bonus and help for you and for your students. So if you have any thoughts about learning more about MEFA Pathway, for questions about it, if you want to see a demo of it, please be in touch with Jennifer and Asia, and you can do that either. You'll have access to them right now, or you can talk to me when I send that recording, and I will make sure that they are able to follow up with you. So thank you, and we will get started on this topic. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about understanding financial aid offers and why it's so difficult, and how you can understand them and how you can help your students. We'll also talk a little bit about helping your students who have not yet applied for financial aid. And in fact, this is a huge issue this year, as you know. I don't have to tell you because of the crazy year we've had. We'll also talk about tools that you can use with your students to help them figure out if these colleges will be affordable for them. And that will involve finding out the balance due after financial aid, choosing a college that is affordable, and developing a plan for paying. So we'll talk about all of those things. So one important thing that it's important, we want students to know when they receive their financial aid offer, is that financial aid has been awarded to them based on a couple of different factors. Sometimes it's merit-based, meaning that it's because of their grades, less so test scores this year, but their academic qualities. And we know that a lot of the merit aid out there from colleges is based on that. Now, it could also be based on athletics or art or something like that, but students should understand that some of the aid that they'll receive is merit-based. And when they receive that, it's just important to know what's the criteria for that award. So is it for 1 year? Is it for 4 years? Can it be renewed, but they have to keep a certain grade point average, which is very common. So just encouraging your students to really understand what those merit-based awards are all about. And then the other type of aid is need-based. And so that's awarded to the student based on their family's financial eligibility, based on the FAFSA and or the CSS profile. So it's also important for them to understand that piece and what aid is need-based. So let's talk about financial aid offers. There has been no consistency in how colleges and universities put out financial aid offers. So in fact, there was a study done by U Aspire here in Massachusetts recently that showed that there were so many different types of financial aid offers out there that students and families receive, that they found that the federal direct loans were listed in over 100 different ways. So on some award letters, they were called Federal Direct Subsidized Loan, and some they were called William D. Ford, and some they were called Stafford, and some they were called Department of Education. Over 100, I don't want to put out the number, but it was something like 147 different ways that one loan could be listed on a financial aid offer. So no wonder these are really hard to read. So some award letters are great, and they include everything. They include all the costs, and then all of the aid very clearly, what aid is grant and scholarship, what aid is loan. So some colleges have gotten much better at doing that, and some haven't. So you'll probably still see that these aid offers can look very different. So I think helping a student understand what is a grant or scholarship, and that's the best type of aid. What's a work study award? And what does that mean? That means you won't have that money up front. That means that money will be useful in the fall. When they're in college, they can get a job and they can use that money to cover miscellaneous expenses, but they're not going to have that money up front. And then what's a loan? And making sure your students know that even though they're decent type loans, like these federal loans, that they're going to have to pay them back. So really important to help your students understand that, and that all of the aid that's offered comes from a number of sources. So it comes from the federal government, the state, the college itself. So talking your students through that. In general, students have to let the college know by May 1st. Last year, colleges were a little more lenient with that deadline, but so far, I think students should at least be thinking that by May 1st, they'll have to let the college know if they're going to attend. So it's good to be pouring over this information now. And then students may have questions about the federal loans. So let me say a few things about the loans now. Of all the loans available for students, these are the best, the federal direct student loans, both subsidized and unsubsidized. And this is why. They have a very low fixed interest rate. Right now it's 2.75. That does change each year, and it will change again before they attend in the fall, but the rates have been fairly low for a while. Now, subsidized means that the federal government is paying the interest while the student is in school. So that's really the best type of loan. Unsubsidized means that the student doesn't have to make payments, but the interest is accruing even while they're attending school. So not as terrific, but has the same low interest rate. There's no credit check on these. The student, just by virtue that they're going to be a student, will be able to take these loans. There is a fee. And what will happen is once the student says, yes, I'm going to attend this school and I accept this financial aid offer, then the school will direct them to this studentaid.gov website to learn more about their loans. And this entrance counseling gives them all kinds of information about when they'll have to start repaying, the options for repayment, what their payment will be if they borrow each year. So they go through this process, and then they are able to learn about their loan, sign off on entrance counseling, and sign their promissory note. So that's how that works. And here are the amounts that a student can borrow from the federal government. Another important thing to know is that even though a student might have a financial aid offer, colleges still many times follow up with students for additional information. There's a process called verification that colleges are required to do. They're required to collect tax return information from some students if it wasn't imported into the FAFSA from the IRS. And they sometimes ask additional information, such as, can you send us your bank account information? Or for my kids, the additional information that I was asked is if my daughter didn't need to file taxes because she didn't make enough money, I had to verify that that was true. And then another year, I think I received a question about a sibling being in college and verifying that the sibling was in college. So that's the type of information, and that's just all part of the process. So you can tell your students, don't worry, you didn't do anything wrong. However, do open any emails from the colleges. I know you probably work with students all the time and are telling them the same thing, but they need to read their email. And in fact, many of these colleges now have web portals where they post this information. So encourage them to sign up for the web portal so they can get this information and find out if something is missing. Any questions yet before I move on to this other topic? Or
no, we don't have one question that's come through yet.
Okay, all right. So this topic is even bigger at this moment. Let me say, if your students have not applied for aid, they can still submit the FAFSA for federal and state aid right now. And in fact, the Massachusetts FAFSA deadline to receive state aid right now is May 1st. So they really have time. If they do it now, they can still be eligible for quite a bit of aid, even if some colleges have had earlier deadlines and some institutional aid might not be available, but there still is federal and state aid available. And I'll just add here that MEFA is doing a lot of work to help with FAFSA completion, because we know it's way down in Massachusetts and it's just been so hard to reach certain students. So one of the things that we're doing is we are going to put on an all-day, what we're calling a FAFSA festival. It's going to be on April 24th. It's a Saturday, and it's going to be a drop-in Zoom event where students and families can come in, and we'll pair them one-on-one in a breakout room with someone who can help them. So that's a preview. We're going to be sending you information about that very soon, but just know that we really want to help you reach your students and have them file the FAFSA. to make sure they know they can still open doors for the fall, even if they haven't made a plan yet. All right, and then I'll just say a word about the wait list. You know that it's really hard to know what a wait list means. Some colleges have long wait lists that don't move that much, and others have wait lists that are shorter and do move. So our advice for students is to, if you get on a wait list, is to first let the college know if you want to stay on the wait list. You do want to be on the wait list, and stay in touch with that college and continue to stay in touch with that college, continually telling them you're still interested, you still want to be, on that wait list. And if they can update it with anything, new grades, new awards, that's great. However, they need to mentally move on, right? And I know you help them with that all the time and maybe understand that even better than I do. But I guess the key that I'll talk about here is that be aware that on wait lists, sometimes less financial aid is available. Not always, but many times. So it's a good idea to really have them connect with the college to find out if they are accepted off the wait list, what's the deal with financial aid? That's a really good question. And that will help them with their thinking of, do I keep hoping for this, or do I just move on and attend one of the other, hopefully, great schools on my list? All right, and so this then is really important. Students hopefully are receiving lots of acceptances and lots of aid offers right now. And we talked about how they all look different. So I think it's a really important exercise for families to take all those award letters and make sure that they're comparing apples to apples. And so MEFA has this terrific calculator. It's called the College Cost Calculator. And this allows a family to take the award offer, go right in here and put 4 different schools. I think you can put up to 6, in fact, at the top, fill in the tuition fees, all the costs that they know about, and then list all of the aid that is on the award offer, including the loans, so they can see the bottom line and they can know that one school may be more affordable than another. And again, it's hard when you're looking at all these different award letters. So to be able to do it and see it all in a nice chart and see that bottom line, that can give a family really good information. And when they see, okay, this is what the remaining cost is, my need wasn't fully met, can we afford this? And that hopefully will be the beginnings of a conversation with the student of, okay, so what do we do here? Let's look at your second choice. What about your third choice? Could you call them? Could you ask some questions? Do you think that program would get you what you need? I know you didn't want to be so far away. How are you feeling about that now? All of those parent and student conversations. So I think this college cost calculator is such a critical step on the affordability front. So feel free to share that away. One other piece I'll say is that I guess it's important also for families to understand what are the build costs, and then what are the other costs. You know, they are going to need costs like transportation, books, miscellaneous expenses when on campus, things like that. So important to talk about builds. Yes, you have to have enough money to pay the bill up front, but you also have to have enough money when you're going to college to be able to support yourself. So just making sure they understand both of those things. And another important point is that health insurance is sometimes a big cost for these colleges, $1,200 or something, but many students can waive health insurance if they're on their parents' plan until they're up to 26. So we just like to point that out to families. Make sure if your student is on your own health insurance in your family, you can waive the cost of that. And the college usually has a form on their web portal. So make sure they do that. All right, so how do those conversations go at the kitchen table? I'd say they use that college cost calculator, and then they really see which Which of these colleges is affordable? And what helps them know if it's affordable? Well, let's say they do the college cost calculator and it says on the bottom line, okay, even with the federal loans, all of that, we as a family are going to have to come up with $10,000. That wasn't covered by financial aid. Well, the family really has to decide, can we do that? Do we have any savings? Maybe they could do it 1 year, but can we do this 4 years in a row? That's important to know. Maybe they could do that, but they have 2 other children who are in 8th grade and 10th grade. So it's just very important for the family to look at the big picture of that and really decide on affordability. Some other things that come into play are, let's say the student I'm going to pick on a specific school here in a good way. Let's say the student has specifically said, I'm going to WPI and I'm going to be an engineer. WPI has these great statistics and really, their students graduating with an engineering degree earn very good starting salaries. Now, does that mean every student? No. So students have to know themselves and know, that anything can happen. But in general, the average starting salary for an engineering student is a little bit higher. And if they know that's the program they're going in, they know they love it, they know they're going to work hard, maybe they would decide, I can take on a little extra debt because I feel like I probably will be able to pay that. On the other hand, if a student really doesn't know exactly what they want to do, and that's many students, the possibilities are a little more open. And so maybe they want to be a tiny bit more cautious with the level of debt that they're going to take on. Or what if they decide, I know I'm going to need to go to graduate school. So because of that, I want to really limit my undergraduate borrowing. So all of those things come into play. And I think just helping students think of those questions is really important. Now, when we talk about savings, this is what we help our families with. We just ask them, do you have any of these things? 529 plans, prepaid tuition plans, savings bonds, stocks, student bank accounts, anything that can be used to pay for college. So hopefully some families have some savings and they'll be so happy that they do, but many don't. So that's really the first place they should look when they're thinking about, how am I going to pay this bill? And just so that families have this, if they have one of the plans in Massachusetts, the MEFA plans, the U plan prepaid tuition plan, or the MEFA U fund 529 plan, this is directions on how they will be able to access their money to use it to pay their college bill. And both of these processes are pretty streamlined and easy. And I've used both. I've had a U plan and a U fund, and I've used them both for my kids. This is good information that we can share. And then another source of income for some families would be their current income. So when they do their monthly budget, do they have any extra money that could be used for paying for college? So let's say for a while they had a car payment and they paid off their car. Does that leave a few $100s a month to be able to pay toward college? Those are the things that they can think about. And they should know that all colleges have an interest-free monthly payment plan. And they're all different, but usually a family can pay the cost for the year over 5 to 12 months. And there's usually a fee, maybe a $60 fee to join the monthly payment plan. And then they can just spread out their payments. So that's another option families should know about. And the colleges will send information about that later in the year. And then the third would be future income. Does the family think, okay, we will borrow in addition to those student loans from the federal government, we'll borrow a little bit. We need $10,000. We are willing to borrow a little bit. So if a family wants to borrow, these are some of the things they need to think about. Other than those federal student loans, there's always going to be a credit check on these loans. And students are not going to be able to borrow non-federal loans on their own signature. They're going to need a parent. So this is where parents and students can sit down and talk about, if we do need a little money, who's going to borrow? We're both going to be on this loan note. Who's going to repay it at the end? All of that has to be taken into consideration. And in general, families should do like they do with anything, a mortgage or a car loan or anything. They should find a loan that has the best interest rate, the best repayment terms, and that suits them best. A couple of places that they should definitely look into are the federal government has something called a PLUS loan, a parent loan for undergraduate students. So that's a loan that's available for parents. MEFA has a terrific suite of loans. We really do. We have some of the lowest interest rates out there. So I definitely think all parents should look at MEFA loans and see if that works. They might have their own bank that has educational loans. The college might recommend some lenders that they work with often. So families really should take a look and look at all of this before they borrow. And as you can see on the screen, MEFA has some webinars later in the spring that families can attend where we talk about comparing loan options, and we get into the nitty-gritty of interest rates and APRs and repayment options. So there are a couple right there in June for families. And this is MEFA's student loan payment calculator. This is why I love to have families come here, whether they choose to borrow from MEFA or not. They will just put in, I want to borrow $20,000. My son is 4 years before graduation and my credit is good, and press calculate. And they get a screen like this, which shows, okay, you can borrow a loan for immediate repay for 10 years. And it gives all the statistics of how much your monthly payment will be, what's the interest rate, all of that. So they can get a sense of what might be a good option for them. And then when they go look elsewhere, they also know, okay, I need to make sure I find all of this information with whatever loan I borrow. So that's why I love this calculator as well. And, you know, when we work with families, we know that every family does things a little bit differently. So there are almost no two families who are going to pay for college in exactly the same way. So, but here's just an example of how one family might decide to pay a $20,000 college bill. They might say, okay, the student has some savings from last summer's job, $1,000. So, all right, student, pay up. We're gonna use some of that to pay your bill. And the parents might have some savings, so they decide to have $4,000 to pay the bill. And then the family might say, okay, we actually, in our monthly budget, have a little bit of money we could use to pay the college bill. Maybe that example I used of, we just paid off a car. And so we're gonna drive this used car for a number of years. That's what happens when you're, parents of college students. So maybe we can pay $500 a month for 10 months. So that's $5,000. And that's how they're going to do it. And then this family says, okay, and we can borrow an education loan for $10,000. And they've done the calculators and all, and they've determined that for $10,000, roughly, it might be about $100 payment a month. And the family feels like they can do that. Again, they have to think that's now. They're probably going to borrow that $10,000 for 3 more years. So whether that's a good idea or not, they have to determine that. But this is how this family is going to come up with $20,000 to pay this college bill. On the other hand, if they get to this point and say, we can't do this. We can't take on that education loan of $10,000 and expect to do it 3 more years. We have 2 more students coming up. We're nearing retirement, whatever their family situation is. Then it becomes talking to the student and choosing one of the other colleges on their list that's more affordable. And you see this as well as we do. When a student receives financial aid offers, some colleges give more money than others. And it's important to pay attention to that. So a little bit of a timeline here. The fall semester bill is usually sent in June or July, and it's due in July or August. So families have some time to think about how they're going to pay, but really, they should have it somewhat figured out before May 1st and before they say, yes, student's going to come to this college. Because you see this as well. They can say, yes, I'm going to attend, but if they haven't figured out the finances, that dream may fall away over the summer. So better to fix it all now. And then again, families don't really need to apply for loans now. They can do that once they receive the bill. And they can set up payment plans later in the year as well. So there's no rush on any of this except a paper mental rush so that they know that this is going to be an affordable option. Another way, if they see that bottom line and don't know how they're going to do it, is to continue to apply for outside private scholarships. And I know at your high schools, you might have a scholarship process. So hopefully the schools have submitted whatever forms to you so they can apply for any town or school scholarships. And then here are some good options for searching for scholarships online. There's MEFA Pathway, which I mentioned, has a great scholarship search. The College Board also has a scholarship search. FastWeb, Going Merry. Those are some reputable sites where students can put in information about themselves and hopefully receive a fairly good list of scholarships that they can apply to. And you can encourage them. They can use their college essay. They've done all this if they've applied to college. They can piece together these scholarship applications, and they'll find even a $200 scholarship, a $500 scholarship can be super, super helpful. And I'll stop for one moment because I've been talking a lot to hear if there are any questions, and then I'll talk about these other plans.
We do have one question that came in, Julie, in regards to the FAFSA festival. So
Yeah.
asking about bilingual support.
Yes, there will be bilingual support, and we have barely begun to recruit volunteers, and we already have 2 Spanish-speaking volunteers and 1 Chinese-speaking volunteer. So our hope is to gather 50 volunteers for each time slot and have that support. And again, with one of our partners, Mass Edco, who is willing to say there's a family who comes with a language that we can't support that day. Mass Edco is willing to call them the following Monday. So there's going to be a lot of support, and we are collaborating with all of the organizations in Massachusetts and the Department of Education, the Department of Higher Education. So we're going to have a lot of support so that as long as someone gets connected to this, we will find them the one-on-one help. So yeah, thank you. Great question.
Thanks, Julie. And that's all for the questions. There was just one.
Oh, great.
Oh, wait, one just came in. Sorry, hold up there. All right. Have we ever heard of bold, BOLD.org regarding scholarships?
Thank you. I hadn't, and yet MEFA has just heard of BOLD, and John Hughes, our resident podcaster, just interviewed BOLD for our podcast. And so that is coming out soon. And I think that means we will add BOLD to our list of scholarship searches. So thank you for bringing that up. And yes, I know John really enjoyed that conversation.
All right, great, perfect. That's all for the questions for now, Julie. Thanks.
Oh, great. So these 2 programs, I know as counselors, you know about this. I feel like we all can't talk about this enough, that here within Massachusetts, we have some options that really allow college to be a little more affordable through our public system and private. So Mass Transfer website has great information about the programs that allow students to begin at a community college and then transfer to a 2-year public institution. And there are a variety of different programs and a variety of different ways that students can do this. But they all culminate in things like automatic credit transfer, tuition credits, tuition freezes. There are just all kinds of ways to make a Massachusetts public institution degree much more affordable. So, encourage your students to look at that. We know there's sometimes a reluctance for students to start at community college. And I know at MEFA, we really try to do a lot and talk about how that is a terrific pathway, and just hope that students can really see that and see all of the opportunities in doing a degree that way. So that's great, especially once you put your award offers in those calculators and look at what it's going to cost. It's just nice to be able to balance it out with some of these other options. And the other one, Tuition Break, which is the New England Board of Higher Education program, lists a number of programs that have tuition discounts across state lines. That's the way I'd say it. So, for example, if in Massachusetts we don't have a program, and I don't know if this is true or not, I'm making it up, in cybersecurity, but Connecticut or New Hampshire has one, then those programs might offer a student to be able to use in-state tuition instead of out-of-state tuition, a lot cheaper. But again, they've expanded this tuition break program. And so sometimes there are programs that they really just want to highlight and push and attract students to these programs, and they allow discounts on them across state lines. So that is a terrific website that I would encourage you to encourage your students to look at. So then let's talk about the financial aid office, issues that might come up at this point. What can students ask the financial aid office? What's important to ask the financial aid office at this point? I guess we mentioned one of the things right up front, that their financial aid renewability criteria. So if a student has a financial aid offer for this year, they want to be confident that they're going to receive the same or similar award offer for the next 2 or 4 years. So if that isn't absolutely clear in the award materials, that's a question they should ask the financial aid office. And what the financial aid office might say is, yes, as long as your financial situation stays the same, you can expect a similar award. And on the merit side, if you keep a 3.0 GPA, you will keep your merit award. Those are the things that they should hear. If they don't hear that, they really, should ask more questions, because they don't want to accept an offer of admission and then take this package and not know what's going to happen the next 4 years. So that's key. The other question they can ask, if they have a lot of private outside scholarships, they can ask about the treatment of those scholarships. In most cases, aid is not covering everything, and most colleges will just let those private scholarships meet that unmet need. If it happens to bump up against a student's other package, they usually let them reduce their loans, take away work study before they ever touch a grant or scholarship. However, if you happen to have a student who is admitted to the Ivy Leagues or other schools that meet 100% of full need, and this student is bringing in with them a number of outside scholarship, it's good to have that conversation with the financial aid office, just because it's a good problem to have in that case if a student is fully funded and trying to bring in more money, but good to have that conversation. And another big one this year is, this has been a really crazy year. And so families applied for financial aid using 2019 income, and a lot changed in the year. So they may earn less income now. And that is a good reason that they should connect with the financial aid office to talk with them about job loss or income changes due to COVID, and appealing their financial aid offers. So encourage students and families to contact the financial aid office in those circumstances. And in fact, we are holding an appeals webinar for families this Thursday evening at 6:30. So again, if they go to mefa.org/events, families can attend this webinar, which is going to have 6 financial aid administrators from colleges all over Massachusetts, and I'll be moderating that. So that's a good one to learn about what is the way to make an appeal, what can colleges consider, what might they not consider. And these are all the ways someone can contact the financial aid office: phone, email, many times they're chatting as well. I would say look on the financial aid section of the college website to see what's the preferred method of communication, what's the preferred method of going forward with an appeal. All right, so this is what your families are thinking about, right? They will by May 1st probably have to make a decision. So hopefully you can help them and they can do all of this work ahead of time so that by the time that bill comes in the summer, they sort of have a plan. And then here are all the resources for them. So if your families are not part of MEFA's email communication stream, encourage them to go to our website and sign up for MEFA emails, or if they sign up for one of the webinars, they'll be added automatically. Go to our webinar, use these calculators, videos. In fact, Jennifer and Asia, you can tell me the website for all of this, where all of this is condensed. Is it collegebound.mefa.org/collegebound? I'll let you tell me. And I think, is that it? And that's
Let's check on it. We can put it in the chat. Sorry, Julie.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we'll check on it and put it in the chat.
And that's where students can find sort of all the information that's in this webinar on one landing page where they can use the calculators, sign up for the webinars, all of that. Thank you, Jennifer and Asia. And then know that you can always call MEFA with questions or email us. We're happy to help you and help your students. And you can also share with your students that they can do that as well. So thank you. And you can connect with us on social media for more information. And just like you signed up for this, please know that the MEFA Institute is our online training program for all of you. And so we will continue to put out lessons. You can receive professional development points when you sign up for one of these webinars. If you have topics that you'd like us to add to the MEFA Institute, let us know that and we'll do that. And we will have a whole suite again next year of MEFA Institute webinars like this to support you. And stay in touch with us because we do this for you. So we want to know, is it helpful? What else could we do? How could we do it differently? Thank you. All right. And call or email us anytime as well. And if you want, if this is helpful and you want to let other people know that, if you can leave us a Google review talking about what you learned, and maybe other people will see that and also sign up for these webinars. But we can open it up if there are other questions.
We do have one that came in. This one is, my daughter attends high school in Massachusetts, but we live in New Hampshire. Can we utilize MEFA's resources?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. At this point, it's funny. I mean, we are definitely a Massachusetts organization, but we have expanded so much recently so that now we work with families all over the country. Students can borrow loans and attend anywhere, and our savings programs are for everyone. And again, all of our guidance is for everyone.
We don't have any other outstanding questions, Julie.
Okay.
No.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, Asia, and thank you to all of you. And again, please stay in touch with us. And we really want to collaborate with you, especially while, you know, it's still a wild year, and it's going to be a transition back, even if things get to more normalcy in the spring and in the fall. So here to help. Thanks.